Picture this, a group of geniuses, armed with Nobel Prizes and Ivy League degrees, sitting in a room, confidently making decisions that would later cost them billions. Sounds like the plot of a dark comedy, right? But this isn't fiction, it's the real-life story of long-term capital management, a hedge fund that crashed and burned in the late 1990s. Despite their brilliance, the fund's leaders made a series of catastrophic mistakes, proving that even the smartest among us can fall victim to poor judgment. So, what gives? Why do intelligent people make such boneheaded decisions? The answer lies in the quirks of our brains and the shortcuts they love to take. In this mini blink to Michael J. Mauboussin's Think Twice, we'll explore how to outsmart our own minds and avoid the pitfalls of flawed thinking. Spoiler alert, it's not about being smarter, it's about thinking differently. One of the biggest culprits behind poor decision-making is something called the inside view. This is when we focus narrowly on our own experiences, data, or assumptions, ignoring the bigger picture. It's like trying to navigate a maze while wearing blinders. You might think you're on the right path, but you're missing critical clues that could lead you astray. The long-term capital management team fell into this trap, relying too heavily on their sophisticated financial models while ignoring the unpredictable nature of the market. The lesson? Don't let your expertise blind you. Sometimes, the smartest move is to step back and ask, what am I missing here? Another common thinking trap is tunnel vision, where we become so fixated on a single goal or outcome that we lose sight of everything else. It's like driving down a highway at full speed, only to realize you've missed your exit, and now you're headed in the wrong direction. Tunnel vision can lead to overconfidence, as we convince ourselves that our path is the only one that makes sense. But as Mauboussin points out, the world is far more complex than our narrow perspectives allow. To avoid this trap, we need to widen our lens, consider alternative scenarios, and embrace the possibility that we might be wrong. So, how do we break free from these mental shortcuts? The answer lies in thinking twice. This means questioning our assumptions, challenging our defaults, and actively seeking out diverse viewpoints. It's about pausing before making a decision and asking, what if I'm missing something? Or how could this go wrong? By intentionally slowing down and examining problems from multiple angles, we can uncover blind spots and make more informed choices. Think of it as mental cross-training, flexing different cognitive muscles to build a stronger, more resilient mind. The stakes are high. Whether you're managing a hedge fund, running a business, or just trying to decide what to have for dinner, poor decision-making can have serious consequences. But the good news is that we're not doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. By adopting a mindset of curiosity and humility, we can outsmart our biases and make better decisions. As Mauboussin reminds us, intelligence alone isn't enough, it's how we use it that counts. In the end, the key to smarter decision-making isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most thoughtful. So, the next time you're faced with a big decision, take a page from Mauboussin's playbook, think twice, question everything, and don't let your brain's shortcuts steer you wrong. And remember, even Nobel laureates can mess up, so cut yourself some slack, laugh at your mistakes, and keep learning. After all, as the saying goes, the only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. Now, go forth and think wisely, just don't forget to double-check your work. Chapter 1: Avoid Decision-Making Errors, How the Outside View Can Transform Your Judgment. Imagine this, it's 2008, and the horse racing world is buzzing with excitement. Big Brown, a seemingly unstoppable thoroughbred, has just won the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness Stakes. His trainer, Rick Duttero, is confident, certain that Big Brown will clinch the Triple Crown. The odds makers agree, placing him as a 3-10 favorite. But then, in a shocking twist, Big Brown doesn't just lose the Belmont Stakes, he finishes dead last. How could everyone have been so wrong? The answer lies in a common but costly mistake, relying too heavily on the inside view. The inside view is when we focus narrowly on the specifics of a situation, like Big Brown's previous wins and apparent good health, while ignoring the broader context. In this case, the odds makers overlooked a critical statistic: only about 40% of horses that win the first 2 Triple Crown races go on to win the third. They also ignored Big Brown's mediocre buyer speed figure, a key performance metric. By failing to consider this outside data, they fell victim to overconfidence and flawed judgment. As Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel laureate, once said, overconfidence is the most significant of the cognitive biases. And boy, did it show here. Humans naturally gravitate toward the inside view. We're wired to focus on what's right in front of us, often ignoring the bigger picture. This tendency leads to overly optimistic predictions and an inflated sense of control. Think about it, most people rate themselves as above average in positive traits, and we've all seen home renovation shows where projects inevitably go over budget and past deadlines. In business, this bias manifests in the relentless pursuit of mergers and acquisitions, despite research showing that most fail to improve profitability. The inside view feels intuitive, but it's often misleading. The antidote to this bias is the outside view, a perspective that considers relevant statistics, comparable scenarios, and broader context. Unlike the inside view, which is narrow and case-specific, the outside view provides a reality check on our assumptions. It forces us to ask, what does history tell us? Or what's the bigger picture here? By integrating this approach, we can counteract our natural biases and make more informed decisions. As Warren Buffett wisely noted, it's better to be approximately right than precisely wrong. So, how can you adopt the outside view in your own decision-making? Start by identifying an appropriate reference class based on your situation. For example, if you're launching a new product, look at how similar products have performed in the past. Next, analyze the distribution of outcomes within that reference class. What's the success rate? What are the common pitfalls? Then, make a prediction informed by that data, and adjust it as you gather more case-specific information. It's a methodical process, but one that pays off in better judgment and fewer costly mistakes. The inside view may feel natural, but avoiding its pitfalls takes conscious effort. By deliberately adopting the outside view, you'll gain perspective, counteract biases, and see your decisions steadily improve. So, the next time you're faced with a big decision, remember Big Brown's story. Step back, look at the bigger picture, and ask yourself, what am I missing here? After all, as the saying goes, the devil is in the details, but the truth is in the data. And who knows? With a little outside thinking, you might just avoid your own Belmont Stakes moment. Now, go forth and make smarter decisions, just don't forget to check the odds. Chapter 2: Avoid Tunnel Vision, How Mental Shortcuts Skew Decisions and How to Overcome Them. Let's try a quick experiment. Write down the last 4 digits of your phone number. Got it? Now, take a wild guess, how many doctors do you think there are in Manhattan? If your phone number ends between 0000 and 2999, you probably guessed around 16,000 doctors. If it ends with 7,000 or above, your estimate might be closer to 22,000. Sounds random, right? Welcome to the anchoring heuristic, a mental shortcut where we latch onto an initial piece of information, even if it's irrelevant, and adjust our judgments from there. It's a fascinating quirk of the human mind, but it's also a trap that can lead to flawed decisions. And anchoring is just one of many cognitive biases that contribute to tunnel vision, a phenomenon where we focus so intensely on one thing that we ignore everything else. Tunnel vision is like wearing blinders, it narrows our perspective and keeps us from seeing the full picture. One of its key drivers is the availability heuristic, where we base decisions on information that's recent or easily recalled. For example, a doctor who's treated numerous pneumonia cases might misdiagnose a patient with unrelated symptoms simply because pneumonia is top of mind. It's not that the doctor is incompetent, it's that their brain is taking a shortcut. As Daniel Kahneman, the godfather of behavioral economics, once said, "What you see is all there is." And sometimes, what we see isn't enough. Another culprit behind tunnel vision is cognitive dissonance, the mental gymnastics we perform to reconcile conflicting ideas. Take Kurt Wise, a Harvard-trained paleontologist who also believes in the literal 7-day creation story from Genesis. Despite his scientific training, he reshapes facts to align with his faith. It's an extreme example, but it highlights how we often twist logic to avoid discomfort. We're not always rational beings, we're rationalizing beings. And when our beliefs clash with reality, tunnel vision can make us double down on the wrong path. Incentives also play a huge role in narrowing our focus. When rewards like money, status, or recognition are on the line, we tend to ignore warning signs and alternatives. This was glaringly evident in the 2008 financial crisis. Homebuyers were incentivized to take on risky subprime mortgages, lenders earned fees from those loans, bankers profited by packaging them into securities, and investors chased higher returns. At every step, tunnel vision on short-term gains blinded people to the looming disaster. As Upton Sinclair famously put it, "It is difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it." So, how do we counter tunnel vision? The first step is to consciously seek out alternative perspectives. Use objective data, like market rates or historical trends, to challenge your assumptions. Surround yourself with dissenting voices, people who aren't afraid to tell you when you're wrong. And while incentives can be powerful motivators, don't let them dictate your decisions. Ask yourself, what am I ignoring here? And what's the bigger picture? It's not easy, our brains are wired to take the path of least resistance, but it's essential for making balanced, informed choices. Tunnel vision is a sneaky adversary, fueled by anchoring, availability bias, cognitive dissonance, and incentives. But by understanding these pitfalls and actively broadening our perspective, we can make better decisions, even when our minds want to narrow the focus. Remember, the easy option isn't always the right one. So, the next time you find yourself fixating on a single point, take a step back, look around, and ask, what am I missing? After all, as the old saying goes, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. And trust me, you don't want to be the person trying to fix a leaky faucet with a hammer. Now, go forth and see the bigger picture, your decisions will thank you. Summary of the book. In Think Twice, Michael J. Mauboussin takes us on a fascinating journey into the world of decision-making, revealing how even the smartest among us can fall victim to cognitive biases and mental shortcuts. The book dives deep into the ways our brains trick us into making flawed judgments, from the anchoring heuristic, where we latch on to irrelevant starting points, to tunnel vision, which narrows our focus and blinds us to critical information. Through real-world examples, like the collapse of long-term capital management in the 2008 financial crisis, Mauboussin illustrates how these biases can lead to catastrophic mistakes. But he doesn't just highlight the problems, he offers practical solutions to help us think more clearly and make better decisions. One of the key takeaways is the importance of adopting an outside view. Instead of relying solely on our own experiences or narrow perspectives, we should look at broader data, historical trends, and comparable scenarios. This approach acts as a reality check, countering our natural tendency to be overly optimistic or overconfident. Mauboussin also emphasizes the value of seeking out dissenting opinions and challenging our assumptions. By doing so, we can avoid the pitfalls of cognitive dissonance and make more balanced, informed choices. The book also explores how incentives can distort our judgment, pushing us to prioritize short-term gains over long-term success. Whether it's the allure of a bonus, the pressure to meet a deadline, or the desire for recognition, incentives can narrow our focus and lead us astray. Mauboussin encourages readers to recognize these influences and consciously broaden their perspective. He reminds us that good decision-making isn't about being the smartest person in the room, it's about being the most thoughtful. Another critical concept is the idea of thinking twice. This means pausing to question our assumptions, examine problems from multiple angles, and consider alternative viewpoints. It's a simple but powerful practice that can help us avoid the traps of mental shortcuts and make more rational decisions. Mauboussin's insights are backed by research and real-world examples, making the book both informative and relatable. Ultimately, Think Twice is a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their decision-making skills. It's a reminder that intelligence alone isn't enough, we need to actively work against our biases and think more deliberately. By adopting the strategies outlined in the book, we can make better choices in our personal and professional lives, avoid costly mistakes, and achieve more meaningful outcomes. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Think Twice. Your curiosity and commitment to learning are what make these insights so powerful. If you found this summary helpful, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or rating to let me know how I can improve and what books you'd like me to summarize next. Your feedback is invaluable, and it helps me create content that resonates with you. As the great Maya Angelou once said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Together, we can keep learning, growing, and making smarter decisions. Until next time, keep thinking twice, and don't forget to laugh along the way. After all, as they say, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Smiley face, because they don't have the guts. See you in the next summary.